You're listening to another Geek Pride podcast. Sit back, relax, and put it in your ears. Coming to some ears near you. In a world so like this one, you couldn't tell the difference. Geeks and fanatics engage in eternal war for the perfect film pitch. Judged by their peers, and against all odds they cry, "Pitch, please."
Hello and welcome to Pitch Please, the Geek Pride podcast in which a couple of geeks pitch ideas for new TV shows or films. Today, we're going to be pitching an idea for a new Power Rangers product, a movie or TV show. We'll find out later on. Joining me today are Michael Orvis.
Michael? Why am I getting full named? I'm not in trouble.
I thought it'd be nice and respectful, call you by your full name. Sorry, Michael Valerie Orvis.
Valerie Candice Orvis, thank you very much. Hello the world.
And as well, here is Callum Tyndall.
I kind of resent the whole couple of geeks thing. I'm actually super alpha. Bruh.
Clearly, I can tell that instantly by your voice and cadence.
It irradiates from you.
I'm actually quite intimidated by listening to you.
I've got a picture somewhere on maybe not on this computer, but somewhere in like on a corkboard or something. I don't know, somewhere of Callum topless in bed with a bottle of Voss water.
I really hope it's not on a corkboard.
Yeah.
Why do you have that? What a strange thing to have.
Let's just say that LFCC 2015 was it?
Yeah.
LFCC 2015 was a very strange LFCC. There's a. I want to fuck it. Right, this will be a slightly longer. This is the finale anyway. For those of you that didn't know, of Pitch Please, not like the end forever, but the end of season 1.
Or is it?
There's a.
No, it definitely is.
Should we do a post-credit sequence? That's a fucking great idea. We should do a post-credit sequence. Sorry, I'm biting a hang now. Anyway, there's a podcast that was recorded for that LFC 2015 that is the most cringy thing I've ever had the misfortune of being involved with. But there is some gold in there. I'm just gonna say 3 words to you: Blackpool Comic Con.
Man.
Yeah, it's
legendary.
It's got maybe the guys from that, but Geary has expressly forbid that I ever put it out there. And I haven't listened to it in a while. I'm gonna dig it out of the archives and give it a listen and see if it is as shocking as I remember it being. But Geary was very drunk and trying to do things with a woman of ill repute, and yeah, there was a big fight, and me and Callum were trying to hold it together. I went on a rant about how cosplay is awful, and Callum was just trying to talk about comic books. It was glorious.
The problem was, we went back, and it was like me and you going, you know what, we're going to do a podcast. We're just going to go back and do it, because the rest of them want to carry on drinking,
yeah,
and we're kind of feeling done. And then the Blackpool guys were like, you know what, we're going to come. We want to get in on this. It's like, alright, fine. And then Geary rolls up, like, 10 minutes in, and it's already a little bit off the rails. And he's like, hi, rather than just go to my room with the girl I'm trying to sleep with, let's podcast, guys. It's like, yeah, sure, okay, great, let's do this.
He brought her with him to the podcast.
Yeah.
She was semi-involved in that she very obviously wasn't interested in being involved in this and didn't quite know why she was in the room.
That is a baller move. Like, you've got a girl, you're chatting her up, it's like, hey, back to my room, but first, fancy being on a podcast about geek stuff.
And it was just weird. Like, it was.
This is my website. This is the podcast from my website. Isn't that cool? Can I finger blast you now?
It swung between being like an actual, what it was intended to be podcast, and then just the random shit that came out of the varying levels of drunkenness and just people getting mad at each other.
You realise we're going to have to run this whole section past Geary now. He's going to be like, no, we're not, you can't play that, no.
This is the black box episode. This is going to burn this site down.
Yeah, I tell you what, when Geek Pride reaches, let's say, when Geek Pride reaches 100,000 likes on Facebook, then I will guerrilla release the podcast just rogue.
Like Trump White House release it. Just leak it to the press.
Just leak it. No one will care, but I will care. We'll just leak it. It is actually quite interesting. You do get to see into the psyche of two people that are about to completely crash and burn a nationwide event. But yeah, anyway, we've gone on about it for 5 minutes now. This is I'm going to host mode. Power Rangers. Ben, what's your relationship with Power Rangers?
I love Power Rangers. I've got a little boy who's 4 and he loves Power Rangers, which has rekindled
It is your boy,
my
isn't
joy.
it? You've not
Yeah, he's your son, to be clear. Just
That's
so
your child.
I think that's fairly well implied. I mean, no one at home is thinking, oh my god, we're going to call the police. This man has a 4-year-old imprisoned in his house. Everyone kind of on the
not
same...
set a good precedent.
I used to
I'm
watch
so sorry, the world.
When it first
I'm
came
full
on
of
TV.
I'm full of pizza. I'm sorry, everyone. I just want to apologise in advance. I've eaten quite a lot of pizza to try and make the podcast on time, and I don't know. I've not eaten all day. I'm like riding the food high.
You're carb overloaded.
I think I am. Yeah, I'm overstimulated. I need to go and like play some PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds and calm down. Have a juice box and then maybe a nap. Sorry, Ben. You were saying about Power Rangers and your son.
That's fine. I'll just delete all of that stuff. Just wipe all that nonsense out. I mean, the podcast will probably just start here, to be honest, with me just talking about Power Rangers. I love Power Rangers. I watched it when I was a kid. Well, I say I love it. It's bollocks. I mean, everyone knows it's bollocks. I watched it when I was a kid, and I friggin' loved the whole teenagers with magic powers, jumping around, kicking stuff like ninjas. What's not to love? You know, it's ninjas in colourful suits kicking giant monsters and then getting into a huge robot, which then turns into other robots. It was amazing. But there's nothing to it. It's just, that's it. It's like a one joke show. It's like, that's it. There you go. And we're not going to change it or add any kind of depth to it. That's just how we're going to go on.
Excuse me. They're not going to change it or add any depth to it. Green Ranger?
Yes. They change colours every now and again. Or like they change
extra robot.
The setting. Now it's in space. Now it's
Why
in
is
the
there
future.
a Birdman in Dino Charge?
The Birdman in Dino Charge. Let me see Dino Charge. The Birdman. Oh, is he the keeper? No, the Watcher.
I don't know. There was just like a Birdman in an episode that I caught the other time.
Have you been researching for this podcast?
No,
Good
I've
on
got a
you.
little sister and she watches.
What the fuck do you mean good on you? You fucking shit on me every fucking week when I go deep
What's
into
happening
anything that I do, and I'm like, yeah, let's grab everything, every reference from every aspect of this thing, and I'll flip this motherfucker on its head, and then you're like, it's like the Muppets, but also it's the plot, and then everyone goes, oh yes, well done, Ben. Well, he's very good. Very good.
I've got to hand it to you. That's a great impression. But
It's not that you do research, Mike. Research is fine. It's that you care, and that's just understandable.
it's not cool.
You pricks.
You clearly want it too much.
I do, yeah, that's what it is. I just like it. This was a cool let's remember that I pitched this fucker to you two as a
Thirsty
podcast
pitching.
idea.
That's what this is.
I think you better go ahead, Mike. Then you better go first.
All right, fine. Do you know what? I'm gonna give you a little bit of preamble to this week, Ben. I started going deep because that's what I do. You know this. I started looking at the origins of Super Sentai and how that. Because if you don't know, the Power Rangers is basically a weird mockery of the Japanese show Super Sentai. So every time they put in suits, they're not actually those teenagers. They're not even their stunt doubles. They're random Japanese people.
In the original Power Rangers, the Yellow Ranger's a dude.
Yes,
in
which is
Mighty
why he's
Morphin,
not wearing
it's
a
guy,
skirt.
and it's clearly a guy in the suit.
Yeah.
Then it turns into the girl. And it's like, how I've never seen that before. It's amazing. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. If you watch the Super Sentai series that Mighty Morphin was taken from, it's actually incredible. Like, they're all feudal lords and they've got dinosaur powers. Like, in Super Sentai, a lot of the Rangers, before they even put the suits on, they've got like magic powers and stuff. It's fucking cool, and totally batshit because it's Japanese. But Super Sentai has been going for like, I don't know, like 40, 50 years or something. So yeah. Anyway. But yeah, I started looking at the origins of that, and I was going to do this movie about how like the OG Rangers met up with some future Rangers, and you had kind of like a Turtles in Time thing, and they went to the origins of Power Rangers and went and fought like the original evil, and it was going to be this whole thing about how the West like stole elements from it, and they didn't really understand, so they had to go to Japan and like learn, or some planet that was a facsimile. And then I thought, you know what? Fuck that noise, because every time I try something like this, I go off on this wild, incredible, exploratory Grant Morrison style tangent that all makes sense in the end, and basically I'm a genius, please hire me, someone please. And then I just get, yeah, but it's not a 3-act story with a simple structure. So I've opened up Wikipedia, and I've got Mighty Morphin Power Rangers on it now. So, right, here's my pitch. It's 1997. Angel Grove is a town where there's a town, and what we see is it's kind of like in the evening, and there's some rock and roll music playing, probably some Van Halen, and these 5 kids are rollerblading. You've got Zach, Trini, Jason, Kimberly, and Billy, and they're just roller skating to Van Halen's Panama, because that's quite a good track, Panama, and they're all like jumping and doing stuff, and then there's some point that Jason makes about being responsible, and Zach's like, no way man, and then Billy's like a bit of a nerd about it, and you just get to know their personalities. Kimberly is like really like doing all these high kicks and stuff, and Trini is Asian, because that's about as much character development as they gave her in the original series. Suddenly this robot turns up out of nowhere, and it's Alpha, and he's not played by fucking Bill Hader. He's played by Gilbert Gottfried, and so he's like, and I'm not going to do a Gilbert Gottfried impression because I think I've done that on this podcast before and it went horribly wrong. So, but just imagine Gilbert Gottfried going, "Whoa, we need your help. You 5 are perfect." And they're like, "Well, dude, like slam it out, man," or whatever the fuck they said in the 90s. He's like, "No, you've got to come with me." And he's like, "We can't come with you. It's way past our curfew." Oh, blah 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 blah. Anyway, Alpha gets them all to touch his like moon head thing, and they teleport. They're like, "Whoa, man, this shit's crazy, yo."
Sorry, what's the rating on this film? Because I don't think you can show kids someone touching his moon head.
His moon head, not his bell end. So then we cut to Rita Repulsa, just fucking straight cut. Rita Repulsa. She's all like, I will take the world for my own, for my husband is coming, and I want to give him a present. It's Lord Zed. You
is
know
this
him.
classic look Repulsa?
Yeah. No weird green shit. It's just classic. Like, make it look even a bit creepier. Fuck it. Make her CGI like what's her face in
Leia.
Beowulf.
Princess Leia.
Oh,
No.
Angelina Jolie.
Angelina Jolie. Fuck it. She's played by Angelina Jolie, who's CG. So she's doing like this weird Maleficent thing. So it's kind of like, it's CG. It's Rita Repulsa, but like sexy Rita Repulsa. You're like, damn, she got curves and shit. Like her ass is probably hanging out. It's like every if you said to a cosplayer, any cosplayer, doesn't matter who the fuck they are, do Rita Repulsa, obviously there'd be a fuckload of Warbler, but arse or boobs would be hanging out for attention. So just imagine that's Rita Repulsa.
I don't like it.
She's like, oh, it's my, I've got to prepare the world for my husband, and Goldar's there, and fucking, who's the one with the glasses? I've forgotten his fucking name. Finster. Yeah, he's the dude with the glasses who makes all the monsters, I think. So he's like, we'll do what we've done before. We'll take over the world using our putties. But they'll probably be changed their name because there'll be some marketing thing where that doesn't scan, so they'll probably be called Foot Ninjas or fucking some nonsense, and then there'll be a lawsuit, and that'll cause controversy, and then more people will go and see the film. We'll send our Foot Ninjas. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's what we'll do. So you send down the Foot Ninjas, and there's just scenes of destruction. The putties look kind of like putties. They're kind of oozing, but they are like more ninja-y. They can kind of change shape as well, so they're like kind of globular. Kind of imagine like Clayface from Batman. So they can change, and it's kind of like a bit Invasion of the Body Snatchers-y. They like touch people and they can become them. It's kind of crazy, and it's going to be like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. There's not so much like this big destruction sort of thing, and people are getting trapped and corralled in the city. Cut to our 5 kids who are like, whoa man, that was crazy cowabunga balls or whatever. And Alpha's like, we must wake the master. They wake the master, and it's Zordon, as played by I don't know his real name, Mike Ermintrude from Breaking Bad. That dude.
Oh, the old guy.
Yeah, the old guy from Community that's not Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
That guy. So he's like, yo, what do you want? And Alpha's like, the Rangers are here. Aye. And then Mike Ermintrude's like, oh, you're here. So you've been told about what's going on. And they're like, no, man. And Billy's like, oh, but my calculations, this is from another planet. And he's like, you're correct. Yeah, that's right. So you're going to be the Power Rangers. Obviously, I'm skipping through dialogue here. It would be a lot more gravitas.
It's like the most resentful I've ever heard someone of their own film.
Right, and then fucking... Alright, so fucking Mike Ermintrude is like, you gotta be the Rangers. You gotta be. If I go higher, I become Rick from Rick and Morty. Like, you kids you gotta be the Rangers. You're gonna be power, so powerful. Oh my god, yeah. Like, just get Justin Roiland to do the voice of both, Zordon and Alpha 5. Like, oh geez, Zordon, are you sure? Yep, yes, Alpha, go and get the Rangers. Anyway, so then this like plinth comes up, and you've got their morphers, and it's like the classic morphers, but then there might be a bit more like silvery, because apparently silver means it's new. So they grab their morphers, like, what we're supposed to do with this? And he's like, well, I'm not going to tell you what to do with it. You'll know when the time comes. Go out there and save the Angel Grove. And then there's a video feed somehow, because even though there's no cameras, there's a video feed, and you can see one of the putties touching one of Billy's dad, and he becomes Billy's dad, and you're like, holy fuck, he's a body snatcher. It's crazy. So, like, we're not going to get there in time. We don't even know where we are. And Alpha's like, that's where we come in. And they press like fucking. They get taught to press one of the coins on the fucking morpher thing, and suddenly they've all got watches, and they're like, oh, crazy. Whoa. And they press the button, and they warp out of there. Cut to the city. The Rangers get into a fight with the putties. They're like, crazy. And when the putties touch the Rangers to try and take them over, they can't, because like Ranger powers. Whoa, crazy. And they revert back to their kind of greyish state, and they have a big fight. Rangers get their asses kicked. Fuck it, what we're gonna do? This is crazy. They flee the scene, and Rita Repulsa, it does some exposition about Lord Zed and about where they come from, and you find some crazy origin story, and there's some emotional baggage there, and you're like, Rita just wants to make her husband happy because he's been ignoring her, because he's been trying to take over the galaxy, and actually the galaxy's kind of been taken over, so Zed's coming back, and Earth's just kind of the cherry on the bakewell. So the scenes of the Rangers need to train. There's a training montage. They learn about their Zords as all like a thing. They learn more about their powers and fucking friendship and all that nonsense. They learn that each of their weapons, that's like a whole thing. This is like second act of the film. Third act of the film, they all jump down like into the city, and most of the adults have been taken into this one building, and the putties are kind of taking over, and it's all a bit Stepford Wives. And the Rangers morph for the first time. You've only kind of seen them talking about it, and Billy's been like looking it up on a computer, and you see the suits and you're like, oh, crazy. And the suits look pretty much like the suits, only they've got like these shoulder pads, because shoulder pads are cool. And there's a big fight, and they like completely decimate most of the putties, and there's these really cool crane shots, and you can see above, and all the, like I normally fucking spout on about, it's all like one take kind of thing. There's not a load of cuts. Because then that looks more like a kung fu movie, so you get kind of a throwback to how Super Sentai was filmed. There's explosions and people doing those sick flips that I always tried to do as a kid and nearly died doing. And then Rita Repulsa sees what's going on. She's like, this is crazy. And what's his fucking name again? What is his name? Give me a minute. Finster is like, I've got something that's just the case. And he sends down a monster that looks suspiciously like, but legally dissimilar from Godzilla, and Godzilla starts laying waste, and they're like, what the fuck are we gonna do? And they're like, oh, it's Zord time, and they get the Zords, and the Zords are like all attacking them individually, so it's kind of like it changes pace from this movie about kung fu teenagers, and it's kind of becomes a bit of a kaiju movie, and the Zords are individually attacking, and they've each got weapons, because that kind of was implied in the original Power Rangers, but they never really did anything. It's just like, we're going to run with our Zords, and then we become a Megazord. But yeah, this is kind of ramps up the scale, and not Godzilla like hits the fucking pterodactyl out of the sky. Kimberly's one. They're like, oh, fucking Kimberly, ah. And then they realise that by the power of friendship and unity and all the fucking stuff that's like, you know, order, Billy, everyone that's got a personality, they learn that their personality is part of the sum is greater than the parts, blah, blah, blah. And it becomes the Megazord, and it kind of looks like the Megazord that you had before, but it's probably a bit silvery and got, you know, fucking shoulder pads and blue glowing eyes instead of white glowing eyes. And then we get a big old fight, and Kimberly's still down, and you're like, no, Kimberly, fucking it looks like they're going to lose, and then Kimberly goes on the, like, rises up, and she's like, I love my friends, really, because there'd been a whole thing about, she was thinking about leaving Angel Grove because she thought she was above it. I should have mentioned that earlier. It's totally haven't just made it up. And then the fucking pterodactyl gets on the back or the front or wherever the fuck the pterodactyl goes on the Megazord, and it's super crazy. And then they get the sword and they kill the Godzilla, and then Rita Repulsa's like, I don't know what to do. This sucks. They're too strong. I'll never be able to do it. And Lord Zed will be here any minute. And then there's celebration on Earth, and all the adults get saved, and there's a big party, and it's fucking Eric Clapton plays "It's in the way that you use it," freeze frame, high five, all that nonsense. Then in the post-credits scene, Rita's like, I'll never defeat them. She's all like lamenting, but kind of still sexy. And then Ratfing's like, I think I know who they are. And she's like, what do you mean? He said, I've seen them before. I think they're the Power Rangers. Like, what do you mean? He said, so he has a little bit of exposition. You get a little bit of extra stuff. And she's like, back in the Great Ranger Wars, we managed to take one of their devices. And she's like, what do you mean? And he goes into like a box that's in a fucking vault, and it's the Green Ranger, and you're like, crazy, she's holding it, ha 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 ha. Credits. Done. That's my pitch. Fucking Power Rangers.
Shoulder pads played more of a role than I expected.
I can't help but notice they didn't say it's morphing time.
Well, yeah, they'd say it's morphing time, obviously.
No. For legal reasons.
It's
like...
like...
it's Zord time.
No, they'll say it's...
kind of felt like all the characters resented being in this film.
How good is that though? Like just resentful Power Rangers. Look, man, I'm fucking sick of me putting my heart and fucking soul into pitches, and then I'm like, yeah, and then this happens, and then this happens. You're like, I like the first one, which would be like Callum's like, yeah, everything Mike said, but like simpler. And without all the cameos and stuff. So I just thought, fuck it. I'm just going to bring up the Wikipedia and pull the first thing that comes out my arse. And if I don't win, then I don't win. But I'm not going to feel bad about it because...
I'd just like to point out, I've won 1 point. I've won 1.5 points.
Yeah, but you are also the problem, Callum, because whenever you put me up against Ben, you're like, oh yeah, I like Ben's story. Oh, it's really good. So fuck you and all. Right, this is fucking season finale. I thought I'd change it up a bit, so I've changed it up a bit. Let's see what fucking happens.
All right, cool. Okay, so Callum, you're up next. Let's see if you can beat that.
And I sort of don't want to dive into this rage fire. I mean, I kind of liked my pitch, so going different from the beginning.
Oh, you should do a Super Sentai thing.
Mate, I will walk the fuck out. I swear to Christ. If you start you start pulling out the fucking Super Sentai and shit like that, and fucking Kamen Rider, me and you are done professionally. I swear to God.
Look, I am going to give a warning here to any hardcore Power Rangers fans. I'm about to fuck up your mythology for just something that I think is cool and interesting. So...
Oh, you're going to do a Mike Orvis? I've got this in the bag.
If you're very canonically attached to how Power Rangers goes in the TV series, this might piss you off. Okay, so in the near future, the Power Rangers are a sort of Green Lantern Corps. They realised that having a random selection of kids every now and again get superpowers is maybe not the actual most efficient way to protect the planet. So they formed a sort of Ranger Academy, and now you can try and you get trained by old Power Rangers, and it's like a job and it's a duty, and you're not just like, oh my god, I found this random magic doohickey, have some weird ass alien dude, like why is there always a different alien dude, why did Zordon disappear, what happened to the original Rangers? It's all nonsense. So in this they all stick around and keep doing Ranger things, and we open on the Ranger Academy or whatever it's called. It doesn't really matter. And they're having some sort of press conference where they've just beat some notable monster. It doesn't matter what monster it is, it's just a name drop moment, so you can go, and this is how we beat Goldar, and people can go, oh shit, they mentioned Goldar. And it slowly zooms out, so we realise we're seeing it from like the perspective of a television camera, and it comes out more, and we're seeing it through this sort of crackly TV. And as we zoom, we realise we're in this sort of dingy lab / workshop, and it's really fucked up, and there's like all these spiky mechanical objects sort of all over the place, and we pan over to this hunched figure who's tinkering with something, and she looks up, and it's Rita. She's older, she's scarred, and she's got like a sort of medical exoskeleton on, so she's clearly like not come out of her past fights with the Rangers well. And then she says, typical villainy type thing, like, oh Rangers, wait until you see what I have for you. And as we zoom out more, we see that Rita's working on something that looks very much like a helmet, and to her sides we can see tubes pumping this sort of radioactive neon green substance into what looks to be a silhouetted prone human form. Turns out the original Rangers, the various teachers and heads of the academies, like Jason's the sort of headmaster, as it were, and like, you've got a bunch of the original. You've got Rangers from across the series as well. I don't think it really matters if there's like a certain cut-off point, but so you can go, they're from that and they're from that. But your original Rangers, like your heads of department sort of thing. And you sort of see the newest generation. You get a bit of the day-to-day, like you see the new kids like training, and you get like, oh my god, Kimberly's teaching whatever, and Jason's like this middle-aged dude now who's having to do like admin.
It's admin time! Ugh!
The Academy is attacked by Rita's forces, led by the Green Ranger. Now, it's important to point out, in this timeline, this is the first time there's ever been a Green Ranger. so this is where I'm going to start really fucking with your Ranger mythology. There was never a Green Ranger when the originals, the Mighty Morphins, were, in their youth. And Zordon in this time is now, at this point in time, is now, Mr. House in New Vegas, where he's like, his body is really preserved and he's sort of digitally projecting. Zordon's basically that, where he's got this super frail body encased in a massive life support, and during the course of the battle, the Green Ranger finds his body and he's trying to like plead with him, like, you're still a Ranger, you don't have to do this. Green Ranger like just straight up stabs him, and we're going quite the Adi Shankar fan film Power Rangers, where it's like, this is what happens if you actually put kids through war with superpowers. Quite like brutal and gritty and like just unpleasant throughout. So we get a bit of the battle, the old Rangers and new Rangers having to team up and fighting, but they're really overwhelmed. It's sort of meant to be, it should be implied, and like through the really like cheery press conference and stuff throughout, that the Rangers haven't really had a real threat in years. They've got, monsters pop up and stuff, but they've got very used to being very in control and in charge, and just being able to like put even these kids out there and going like, we've trained you up, you're Rangers now, you can handle it. And this attack is sort of going like, you don't just get to say anyone's a Ranger. Like, there's a reason that, certain people have stood out. And the Academy is completely devastated in the attack. A lot of the young Rangers die, and we see the original Rangers gathered at this memorial wall, which should be like, like the CIA and stuff of their Wall of the Dead. It's like that, and it's like cracked and scorched, but you should be able to pick out, like, with camera work, you can see that there's some notable Rangers from across the timeline. Maybe it's the original Blue Ranger or whatever, but you should be able to see, like, oh shit, Rangers that we know have died. You don't need to recognise most of them, that can just be randoms. And we see, like, this really worn down and sort of creaky Alpha 5 taking Zordon's body away and sort of dealing with him in the aftermath. So then, rest of the film, it's like the original Rangers realising that they've failed. It's sort of like in the new Star Wars, how Luke goes, fuck, I failed my new academy, so I've got to flee, except they go, we failed by letting them think there wasn't danger, that the Rangers, we got complacent. And so it's them sort of coming back together and stepping up to take on the Green. They're trying to find out where he came from. You get a few more fights scattered throughout. At some point you'll get a Megazord battle against Rita's forces. And throughout it should be pretty dark, and like it should be really like you're meant to, focusing on the fact that these people can get hurt and that this is actually quite a fucked up way to have grown up. There's also like, I really want to, sort of like Mike said, how these are ultimately martial arts TV shows in a way, like they're kids shows, but they're meant to be, they sort of come from that martial arts place, so I want a real focus on them. The martial arts have to look really good, and it has to look convincing. You have to believe that these guys can fight, sort of like Raid and all that sort of style of really just like feeling the hit and being able to properly see these fights without having to just go, I think I maybe saw one punch in those 12 jump cuts. Now, going back to the explanation a bit more, this will sort of come up in the finding things out about the Green. So, as I said, a Green Ranger never existed before, but Tommy did exist. However, he started as the White. Rather than going from green to white, we sort of, in my timeline, his summoning as the White happened without him having to go through the whole transition. It was like, we need a White Ranger for, X reasons against this baddie. So Tommy became the White Ranger. And, he was, for years, he was with them and they were doing their whole thing. But basically he had a horrible breakup with Kimberly. And he just went, and he'd sort of been getting disenfranchised anyway, because he started feeling like, because he was always the sort of add-on Ranger, he was sort of ended up sticking around mostly just for her, and when they broke up, he basically went, what, fuck it, I'm done with this, and he was one of the few of them to go like, guys, this is really weird, like, we're 17 or whatever when we started this out, and we're being asked to be the sole protectors of the world. And so he went off, drifted, and sort of lived for a long time as a normal guy. But eventually, like, the idea is sort of that when the TV show is sort of how things were in the beginning, but as the years went on and the bad guys kept losing and the Rangers kept winning and getting more and more confident, it's sort of like that comic book thing of when villains get together and just go, why don't we just kill them? Like, stop playing by the rules. And it's this sort of thing, the idea sort of Rita eventually just starting to think like maybe she's never just really gone after them. And so she captures Tommy, and over a period of time, she basically semi-tortures, semi-experiments on him until she eventually manages to turn him into the Green Ranger. So it ultimately ends up they've sort of found all of this out by, the standard thing, they get in fights and they maybe get some exposition through him. They find like a old Rita lab or whatever, but it ends with this final fight where they're fighting him, and in the middle of the fight, he should, on impulse, like, just Kimberly's coming home from behind or whatever, he just, like, puts his sword back without thinking, and she just runs onto it. Like, she's just caught out. He's just acting on impulse that he gets that there's an attack coming from behind, and something about it gets to him. Like, the fact that he's killed her, she was his one real connection, and he manages to just stop for long enough to tell Jason to take your shot, and Jason just executes him. So you get your sort of grieving, you get the Rangers gathering to mourn, and sort of, they give a Ranger funeral to Kimberly and Tommy. He's like, enshrined as the White Ranger. You get them going back, and you see the Academy start reforming, and going through all this. And then at the end, it goes back to Rita's workshop, and she's sort of disappointed and angry, and she's moving towards this like vault, muttering to herself about what she's going to do next. She's got backup plans. She's going to fuck this, all right. I gave him the chance for power, and he fucks it up, fine, I'll just burn the whole thing. That sort of, typical bad villain thing. Then from a vent drops a figure in a ranger suit, and it's this like really, if you think of the Red Ranger as quite bright, sort of happy red, this is this really deep sort of blood red slashed with black. And he says, hello Rita, and she turns around, surprised. The Ranger should emerge from the shadows, and we see that Zordon's face is like digitally projected inside the helmet. Rita obviously goes like, wait, you're fucking dead. And he's like, some parts more than others. She goes for a weapon, he gets behind her, hand round her throat, and he's like, there's a bit more chat, there's sort of a bit of back and forth between them. I don't know if this only comes up at the end or if it should have been indicated beforehand, but I actually really liked the idea in the new film of Rita and Zordon being the original Rangers, and I'd sort of like to carry that over, the idea that, she was a Ranger that went bad, and the reason he is in charge of the Rangers is because he was the first lead Ranger. And so there's this sort of idea as well that part of the reason of the relationship between the way things went is he never quite wanted to kill her. He didn't want to push the Rangers that far, partly for their sakes and partly for hers. And she was like, sort of back of the mind, subconscious, a bit like, I don't want to burn everything down that I once was. Anyway, so he's got her, and it ends with the chat, and he goes, it's just one mistake you made. You should not have hurt the children. And you hear this horrible, like, sickening snap as he breaks an arm or a leg, and then he just goes, I'm going to take my time with you, and then you just fade to black on his face. Basically, so, and then this is nothing actually that I was more interested in getting your ideas on. So the basic idea is that Zordon, having been in this state of near death for years, he's been kept alive on life support, but he was basically like, this isn't really living, I'm a digital projection. He'd started having Alpha map his brain for an AI sort of program that following his physical death, he had Alpha injected into this sort of uploaded into this prototype autonomous ranger suit. And what I want to ask you guys is, do you think that's something that we should find out in the film, or is that something that you don't explain at all and you can go, if we sequel it, then the Rangers find out about that? Because I like the idea of Zordon showing up as this really mysterious, like, I'm a Ranger, but I've seen you guys get hurt, and that means I'm now willing to go a lot further than any of you. Like, you killed Tommy because he asked you to in a moment after having just killed one of your best friends from childhood, but like the idea of Zordon having come back and being a bit like overwhelmed with having physicality after all these years and being a bit like, I actually know what's better for you than any of you do because I am the first. And I don't think he goes full villain exactly, but in the sequel I want there to be a lot of questions about like what Zordon's role is and how appropriate what he's led the rank, because essentially he raised them to be child soldiers, and so the second film will dive more into that. But I'm not sure if you should know how Zordon's alive at the end of the first one, or if it should just be that tease of, oh shit, what are we seeing? My thought is the people who liked the Adishenka fan film who went, you know what, it's cool seeing the Rangers fund up. It's like people who saw it when they were my age and up, and are now like, you know what, it's kind of weird seeing the Rangers and me still watching it as a kid's show. Like, I like the idea, and obviously like mine takes it quite far in like, there are a lot of dead Rangers die very easily, Zordon ends up in a very dark place, and 2 of the core Rangers get killed. But my thought for how it's pitched is, and it's obviously a weird one because you couldn't go like, here is the Power Rangers movie. Like, I think my film has to exist almost outside of marketing it. It almost has to exist just as a story. This is the thing, because marketing that would be super hard as an actual like AAA big budget studio film. Yeah, it's an hour and a half of like, allow me to deconstruct everything you thought the Power Rangers should be.
I am not sure, guys. I honestly did not like either of those pitches.
What the fuck did you want? What did I not give you what you want? Like, fucking, everything's there. It had a little twist with the body snatching thing. You had the Zords having weapons. That's a cool thing.
No, but to be fair to Mike, despite Mike's delivery of it as something he clearly resented having to do, we did give you the spectrum of Mike's probably the most straight up. Here is a Power Rangers TV show turned into a Power Rangers film with no like frills, just that. And mine is the, what if it was not like the TV show at all?
What if it was not like the thing you loved?
I'm not sure I can give it to either of you, really. I don't think either of you deserve a point for those just garbage fires that you gave me there.
Okay, wait, here's an idea then.
This was a masterpiece of a hate. This was a hate fuck of a pitch.
This really was.
Yeah. You got everything you wanted.
Okay, no.
I don't see what the problem is.
Here's an idea. If you like Pitch Please and you've stuck with us this far,
yeah,
you tell us who won.
Yeah! 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 That's a fucking great idea! That's it. Season fucking wrapped, son. We did it. Season wrapped.
I'm taking this one as a win.
Okay, so that's it. That's the end of Season 1 of Pitch Please. We hope you enjoyed it. Now it's just for us to say goodbye. Okay, Mike?
It's morphin time.
We're going to make some weird shit.
I added it in the end because I'm a clever boy.
Bye, guys. To the baddest of pitches, that is the end of our first season. We will be returning sometime later in the year, and we'll make sure you'll know when we're coming back with a vengeance. Until then, you can email us at content@geekpride.co.uk. It's a hyphen between the geek and the bride. You can tweet Mike at the _dark_Mike, and you can tweet me at ctyndall94. Thank you all for bearing with us through the good times and my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles pitch. We hope you'll come back next season and keep your eyes out, because we may have a special live episode coming in which you can tell us in real time how much better than us you would be at this pitch. Thank you very much.